the right thing to do for clients fundamentally is to surround themselves with great quality, competent people. And I think there are an awful lot of high quality, competent people out there. And I think the sort of assurance they should be going for should be more than just an appropriate level professional indemnity insurance, which seems to be the focus. About, well, if it all goes horribly wrong, to what extent can I sue you? It should be less about that and more about demonstrate to me that you are the right person for the job. It's difficult. For me, it's difficult because in order for consumers to have confidence, there is an element of expectation that the consumer has to have some understanding of A, what it's buying, and B, how the testing regime works, in order that they can have some confidence. Because, fundamentally, a lot of the issues that we've had around, the incorrect products being specified in a building, for example, without a mature client who understands what's being done, and without a professionally competent design team and specifier and specialist contractor involved, then you've only got to have one part of that chain not do their job properly to find yourself in potentially a big problem. I think to utilise fire risk assessments as a great industry as an example around how we got some confidence in the fire risk assessment document itself. And I know, I've worked in the fire risk assessment industry before, and I know the FPA are in the industry, and the FPA were very, very instrumental in a lot of the improvement to the standardisation of fire risk assessments. But I mean, it wasn't that long ago when there was no such thing as third-party accreditation as a fire risk assessor. There was no such thing as a company that could be, BAFE SP205. That was never a thing. We didn't even have PAS 79 right at one point in time. It was just people who would say, I'm professionally competent, I think the building's okay, governor, on the back of a fag packet, and say, well, that's a suitable and sufficient fire risk assessment because there's no significant findings for me to note, right? And now we have moved a long, long way where we've got tiered levels of competency for certain sorts of building built in as well. So, just that particular part of the industry went from broadly completely unregulated when the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order was enacted in 2006 to where we are now, where there's a 3-tier register. And obviously the tiered register thing broadly comes out of the Grenfell Tower disaster and making sure that fire risk assessors are completely competent in that space. But I think that the right thing to do for clients fundamentally is to surround themselves with great quality, competent people. And I think there are an awful lot of high quality, competent people out there. And I think the sort of assurance they should be going for should be more than just an appropriate level professional indemnity insurance, which seems to be the focus. About, well, if it all goes horribly wrong, to what extent can I sue you? It should be less about that and more about demonstrate to me that you are the right person for the job, please. And they're getting a lot better at that. But I think the key point around that really is about early engagement is absolutely fundamental, particularly in passive fire protection, which is very much my industry. And Chris is very, very, very passionate about passive fire protection as an industry and the competency around that. But we find that, passive fire protection historically was very much a grudge purchase. It was very much a last minute purchase. And it was generally something that would be subcontracted by a package of some description on a large building site, which could have been the plumbing contractor, the M&E contractor, just the electrician. It could be in the wall package, the door package. It was just whichever package people fancy putting it in. And you'd have fire stoppers turning up. Sorry, that's going to make Chris hurt inside. I called them a fire stopper, didn't I? But a passive fire protection operative would turn up, and they'd just be met with a hole and just deal with that, with some services going through it. And actually now we are finding that we are able to engage a lot earlier in like REBA stage 3 in some cases REBA stage 2, but most certainly in REBA stage 4, where we get the opportunity to really identify what builders' work openings are, what tested solutions exist, what extended field of application we might be able to utilise, where there's nothing suitable to enable a redesign or a test for a specific situation we'll find on site, proper clash detection, starting to integrate BIM, and then from there allowing clients and design teams to understand early within that risk register what solutions it either needs industry to create by the time it comes to do the build, or what testing it needs to invest in to have a tested solution ready for that particular scenario when it's being built. And fundamentally, that is around early engagement and competency of whoever's working with you in pre-construction. So it's a far bigger thing, I think, than just identifying how you have confidence in the product you're holding. And I think the Moral Day report is very much about confidence in the product you're specifying. But beyond that, it's making sure that the specifier is absolutely appropriate and understands your building, understands, in the case of passive fire protection, understands passive fire protection and understands design to be able to specify those products. And then obviously they're the ones that are going to take design liability on that actual product selection, whereas obviously others would take the professional design liability on the actual specification of the product and the performance criteria of it. So it's a very, very big and expansive question that I'm sure I could talk to you about for hours, but to wrap that up, in my mind, it is about early engagement with competent people who can really assist you with design and getting a seat at the design table, rather than just having a red van arrive during Reba Stage 5 and hope for the best.
Yeah, and you raised lots of concerns there as well. Do you think it's getting better?
So I think my view would be yes, it's certainly getting better. I think clients are maturing a lot, and I think they've matured quickly in their understanding of why they need to do that. I don't think every client is there yet for every passive fire protection contractor in the country, but I think a lot the tier ones are really leading the way in this space, right? The real big boys who are out there building the real iconic, complex, cutting edge buildings. They are all over this in a big way, and I think that is a positive thing, because that then trickles down through the other tiers of the construction industry. And we are a long way from the bottom end of the tiers to start thinking about passive fire protection and early engagement at Reba Stage 3, because at that level of the market, they probably don't know what the Reba stages are. So that there is a big expansive gap between the sorts of projects that they are delivering on. But I think the real big ones, we are broadly there now with a proper understanding of what that looks like. And I think there's two reasons for that. One is because there is a real understanding at board level that it's important to do the right thing and to build things properly, and health and safety is an absolute priority, and obviously tier ones are all for that and have been. But the other part of it, I think they truly understand the legacy issues that it creates if they don't do it properly now. And I think with the change in the defects liability period and the building safety remediation contracts that a lot of tier one contractors have had to sign, they are understanding that without proper assurance and proper design and proper golden thread of information and proper O&Ms, then actually it's very difficult to demonstrate that you've done the right thing. So I think that at the same time as regulatory improvement has made the industry move far quicker towards that goal of being, ultimately compliant with building regulations and comfortable that they are compliant with building regulations.
George, just to try and answer really quickly your question about consumers, two aspects to it really quickly, and conscious we're way over time. Two aspects to it. It is changing. It is going to be different for them and the way they buy their products and systems and the way they contract out that work. It will be different. It's not perfect yet. I think it's going in the right direction, but it's not perfect yet. And it will cost more if you're buying a door closer from B&Q or you're buying a full package of fire stopping work from CLM. It will cost more, and that's the right thing. Who pays for it is the next question, of course, but that's an inevitability. It's going to be different, it's going to be harder, and it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what is reassuring is we're hearing more people asking questions and coming to us for
Yeah.
clarity and things, and there's certainly people throughout the process that are certainly asking the questions now that possibly weren't before, and we're seeing a lot of that, which is very reassuring. Unfortunately, time is against us, so I'm going to have to wrap this up here. But I'll come to both of you if there's any final thoughts. Starting with you, Tom.
I think if we've covered every facet of it over and over again. I think we've done really well, Chris. Well done us. I think my only question, really, I suppose, which is, well, I think it's for Chris, is do you foresee that the capacity in the industry around testing will improve to a point where the delivery times will come down to a point that everybody will find it palatable? Do you foresee there always being a 4, 5, 6 month waiting list for access to good quality UCAS accredited laboratories?
No, it will come down. There's any number of the existing bodies and some that aren't already playing in this field that are now putting resources available, making resources available to build more furnaces, to do more testing. So it will come down and it will find a level that's acceptable. It's got to, really, because when you've got a problem on site and to wait 5 or 6 months to get a test slot and then more months afterwards to get a report, it's not acceptable. So stuff that we're doing together, FPA and CLM, will help, as will the stuff that others are investing in. So I think it will improve. Yeah, I'm very optimistic, actually. Whether it'll all be solved by the time I retire, that's another matter.